Yes, we're live now on YouTube. Alhamdulillah.
All right.
And yes, we're live now on for the YouTube. Sorry for the echo.
Okay.
And now I'm just trying to paste the live streaming on Facebook also.
Also, in all our groups, you can we should do a reminder that we're already starting.
Okay, I'm also just posting the live streaming on our Facebook channel. Alhamdulillah. Just a reminder, Dr. Eldus, that the live streaming, this is a speaker view. Just keep in mind.
Sorry, what is that again?
On our YouTube live streaming, it's showing the speaker view, not a gallery view. If you want to keep it, yes. Or wanted to change it, it's up to you.
If we choose gallery, it's going to show everyone, right?
Yes, if you choose gallery, it will show everyone. And I think when Sheikh Muhammad starts speaking, we can change it back again to speaker. So to keep focus on him. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And we are not starting the recording yet. Also,
No, we haven't. We'll do. We would need to maybe. I hope you have sent the reminders to those who register for the event.
Okay, I will do it again now.
Yeah. Okay. So one more person joining. Okay, one more. Sheikh Muhammad, how do I pronounce your surname?
Foulds.
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 Tamam. Tamam. Okay, alhamdulillah, people are starting to come in. Okay, I think we can start since it is an online event. There will be people. We are already sharing this session online via YouTube, and we also invited people, and we'll be recording the session as well. So, okay, let me change the view to speaker, and then we start recording. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. So today is 18th November, and this is Maqasid Institute's Research Forum number 9. Number 9. And we've been having this research forum for several months, for 9 and 10 months already. And the main purpose of this research forum is to for the scholars to share their experience, their understanding, how they use the Maqasid methodology or Maqasidi thinking and ideas in their either ongoing or completed research, or in their practical life, how they use these ideas in their practical life. And today, alhamdulillah, we are excited to invite you all to this research forum. And here for today's research forum, we invited Sheikh Muhammed Foulds. He just as a way of very short introduction. First of all, he's a student of Sheikh Jasser Ouda, and but he's formerly a Christian minister who reverted to Islam in the year 2000 while researching wildlife in Saudi Arabia. He's a trained Raptor biologist, and I think he will explain what that means. And a human ecologist, graduate of the University of Wales. Sheikh Muhammed Foulds is a professional tracker, falconer, and previously director of Lincolnshire Wildlife Park. He was also the head of conservation and education at a number of zoos and parks in the UK, and also in the South Africa was trained as a safari guide. Sheikh Muhammed Foulds holds a BA in Islamic Sciences from the London Muslim College. He also attended the Advanced Arabic and Quranic Studies at the Gloucester Islamic Academy. Currently, he holds the position of Head of Religious Affairs for Prison with the Minister of Justice at a large UK prison. and a head Imam. He is also a writer and broadcaster at Hearts Sea International, which is a global movement dedicated to reconnecting the Ummah back to the universal ayat in themselves through in the ayat in the nature and in themselves through the history and in the natural world. So lastly, Sheikh Muhammad has been working alongside with His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who is now the King Charles III, who is also has profound deep love for Islam. So he will talk about how to reconnect with nature, how to reconnect and start reading the book of nature, how to understand it, and how to read the ayats that we see in nature and all around us, inshallah. So what we're going to do is we will give the floor to, or the mic to Sheikh for about 40 to 50 minutes. He'll present his ideas on the topic, Introduction to Learning to Read the Book of Nature, or Kitab al-Kawn. And then afterwards, we will open for like questions and answers or the comments. So we should be done in about 1.5 hours. So maybe if you want to have, if the participants have more questions, of course, we can continue longer. Anyway, Sheikh Muhammed Foulds, please, you can please start.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam, Rasulullah, sallallahu wa sallam, assalamu alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here just to share my my thoughts, my vision, and my life with you. And a big thank you to the Maqasid Institute for this opportunity, and of course a big Jazakallah khair to Professor Jessa Older, who's my teacher, and who's given me this opportunity just to be with you today. And I've been sort of working with Professor now for some time, exploring this project that I'm undergoing, which is exploring the fiqh al-Kawn, the Kitab al-Kawn, the Book of Nature, which to many today seems a very strange topic, something that many of the Ummah haven't heard. But there was a time, if we go back in our history, that it was quite sort of natural. And yes, and particularly on my journey as a Muslim, that literally on every single page of the Quran, clearly or not clearly, there is reference to the ayah of the natural world, or for within ourselves, or to go back in history. So one cannot understand the Quran without understanding all of these ayah in connected with the universe. And so what I find today, and I think many do as well, is we have been completely disconnected from the universal signs, from the natural world, which again is for us alien, because there was a time, we just go back to the time of the Prophet and the companions of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, when the revelation was coming down, that they were not inside a classroom, they were outside. So when the revelation was coming down with the ayats on the natural world, they were there, they could comprehend it, they could understand it from the teachings of our beloved messenger, the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And going back right through ancient civilizations and right back to the first man that put their foot on earth. And so, yes, I accepted Islam 1999, and it was through my role in ecology and as a Raptor biologist, which means the study and research of birds of prey, that I was working in Saudi Arabia looking at the species of, a vulture, and there my sort of journey began. But as a ecologist, as a biologist, a social scientist, I've always, although there's the theoretical side, there's the research side, I've always spent most of my life in the natural world. And so you could say I'm continually like an artist. I'm continually painting this beautiful picture. And again, you know, it's just trying to train yourself over the years to, although you engage with the natural world, to try and process it, what you're looking at, understand it, and then take the lessons from it. And that's the key message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to give to us in the Quran. Very much like how a journalist operates, you know, the questions what, when, why, where, how. And so, you know, that's what I've been doing, and that's now what I'm trying to teach my sort of students around the world. But yes, the main issue that I think we are all facing, and I face, is how, because of this world view, this life that we are living in now, which is disconnected from the natural world, how do we reconnect? And that's why I've started up this global institute called Heartsea, and we will talk about it. And it's basically called Heartsea. It is because the focus on the heart in the Quran and the Sunnah, the hadith of our beloved messenger, is so profound, particularly when we look at Qalb as-Salim. And you know, in translations, we just look at the word contented, but we need to really unpack it very, very deeply. And science is now allowing us to understand this. And I've been working with scientists, particularly, for example, in the Heart Math Foundation in the States, where they're exploring now that the heart itself has a piece of flesh, which they call is a brain. And it's that brain that thinks before the main brain. And now, obviously, they're coming from a non-religious perspective, a non-Islamic perspective, and I'm trying to engage with them, you know, subhanAllah, you know, how when we focus on the seeing and the observing and the basra, the heart, how that thinks. So, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will continue, Sanurihim, I will continue to show them the signs on the horizons and also within themselves. So that ayah, subhanallah, it is continually coming alive, and I'm seeing it as I continually have this conversation with different scientists in different backgrounds, which is supporting what I'm trying to do. And so, yes, when we look at the Maqasid methodology, it's very important, because how would I sum it up? How do I sum it up to my students? It is what we would term today is to look at the world through systems thinking. And that, how I teach it, will connect to something which perhaps not many people know about. It's recent research by Professor Ian Biologist. He's a neuroscientist, one of the leading neuroscientists in the world, who lives on a beautiful island in Scotland. And I've done quite a bit of work with him. Again, I've been working with him, explaining from the Islamic perspective. And he then looks at the different brain hemispheres, the left brain and the right brain. But this all beautifully comes together to understand how we should be viewing the world, how we should be thinking, which again is very strange for much of humanity, and particularly the Ummah. And this is why I'm so pleased that I'm now part of the Maqasid Institute, even in a small way, because I'm amongst students, I'm amongst scholars who think the same. And so this is absolutely fantastic news, because there was a time when humanity was looking at the world in a completely different way. So I explained that I am continually, like an artist, I'm continually busy sort of painting my watercolor picture, my oil painting. And so well, for many years as an ecologist and a biologist, alhamdulillah, I've always operated by seeing everything connected. And so when I embraced Islam, it was just a natural progression for me. But as I began my initial studies, and at that particular point, I was only reading translations of the Quran. It was at that point then I was beginning to see a window of the amount of the verses at that point, not understanding ayah, on the command, the requirement by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reflect, to ponder, to think, to see, to look at his creation, to look at the signs within ourselves and in history. And that really resonated with me completely, because that was my background. And there's a difference between biology and ecology. And as an ecologist, it's the science of relationships. And so it got to a point where then, yes, and so, you know, in the introduction, I'm trying to find my way, and then it goes back to the first ayah revealed to our beloved messenger in the cave of Hira, Iqra. And so again, when I began to do my sort of studies and reflection, that some of the ulama were explaining that this was a command to our beloved messenger. But first and foremost, what was our beloved messenger? What was he doing in the cave of Hira? And this connects us to the heart. The heart is significant. It's key, qalb as-salim, in the whole of the Islamic message. So our beloved messenger, who was operating through systems thinking from you know his life as a shepherd that really hasn't been profoundly explored, and through his life, his profound love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because of what was taking place in Mecca, he had to go off grid. I say he went off grid. He made a short hijrah to where he went to the cave so he could have this connection. And there in his time, subhanallah, he was contemplating tafakkur, which is a high level of ibadah. He was contemplating on what? On the ecology of Mecca, day and night, subhanallah. And then when we explore from ulama the different levels of Islamic contemplation, many say that there's 4 levels, and whatever level, subhanallah, beyond our comprehension, whatever level our beloved messenger had reached, that's when the last minute then realized that's the time now for the first the command to read. But what was our beloved messenger to read? Now the revelation was just about to come down over 23 years. And so I was learning that this was a message to the Prophet. Now with all that you've been looking at, okay, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, and then it stops. Okay, so where's the objective? Well, the objective is with all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation that is manifesting, okay, for you to see. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be known, okay? How do we get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is through his creation. And so it was a message that I was learning to the Prophet. Now make that connection with all that you've been pondering about, all that you've been looking at with a revelation, and now deliver that message to the whole of humanity. Who is behind all of this creation that you have been looking at and pondering about? Who is behind all of this sustenance that is giving you everything? And so to me, then that was the door to then open. And then as I began then in my early studies to then, you know, penetrate the Arabic language, which takes a lifetime, beyond a lifetime, subhanAllah, and then doors began to sort of open. And then the questions, okay, why? And this is where I'm still at this, as a student, and I'm still at this stage from the Maqasid methodology, which is the stage of cycles of reflection. Will I complete my studies? SubhanAllah, probably not, because it just goes on and on. I'm definitely, and as I was saying to Professor, I'm still at the stage of cycles of reflection, because I've spent my whole life in the natural world. Doors keep opening, more connections keep happening. And so it's profound. So I'm definitely still at this cycles of reflection, which to me I'm very happy about. And so, because obviously from the Islamic perspective, from the Quranic perspective, that's in the category of tafakkur, tadabbur, and subhanallah, may Allah accept. And this is what I'm trying to teach my sort of students. And this is what we are struggling about today in society, is actually learning to think, okay, taking time out and learning to think. And so as I was going through my studies, then I realized as an ecologist, okay, where I was seeing connections everywhere, and now I'm beginning to see those same connections, that everything is connected. Tawheed is not just saying that there's only one God, okay, very sort of black and white. Let's unpack what Tawheed means. And then I was beginning to think, is it a wonder why the Ummah and our youth, they are not connected to our maktab, to our madrasas when they're learning the Quran? Because it's this sense of Tawheed and the wonder of Tawheed is just not being explained. And so it was beginning that sort of journey. And then once in my early days, understanding that now close the term verse and move to the term ayah, then the Quran in my life suddenly becomes alive, that the whole every single letter, every single sound, every single word, ayat, surah in the Quran is a ayat, is a signpost directing us to our whole purpose. It's a signpost to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why I'm still very much at the cycles of reflection. And there are times when I try, as I said to the professor, to go a little bit further, but suddenly those cycles will then take me into a different direction. So I'm busy writing, recording, but definitely as I'm outside now, my whole life, every single day, I'm just seeing relationships, I'm seeing patterns, and this is how we need to operate. And this is a very important level. It's what I call transition to transformation. How our beloved messenger couldn't connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Mecca with all of the shirk that was taking place. So the transition was go off grid to the cave, and then subhanallah, the transformation happened and the revelation then begun. And so then it was my beginning to sort of questioning, okay, and I don't think many of us do it today. Suddenly I was then contemplating, why is it that the Quran is focusing on tafakkur and tadabbur and all these different elements, subject areas of thinking? What is the difference here? Okay, and then how that connects to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the heart, the qalb, and the fu'ad. So where's the connection? Is that there has to be a connection here? Okay, because then as an ecologist, I was realizing, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is focusing on us to contemplate about the divine system, how it's in perfect order, okay, perfectly designed. So then would not then the revelation, which was the last revelation, also be in divine order. And I know Professor Joseph Alder and a lot of the research has shown how many of our ulama of the past, how they studied the Quran in terms of coherence and structure and the nazm. And so that then took me down that sort of journey. That yes, of course, subhanAllah, if Allah is commanding us to study the natural world with its perfection and order, in order to do what? Well, one is to look at it in awe, in beauty, but then to be able to read it. Well, then, would the Creator give us the last revelation disconnected? Okay. And sadly today, that's how many of the Ummah look at the Quran. They still look at it in terms of it's all disconnected. Majority now of our youth just don't understand it because we're memorizing the ayat in the maktab, in the madrasa, and higher up in our institutes, but we're not understanding it. You know, the message is not coming to life, which obviously then led to the concept that I talk about, inshallah ta'ala, of the outdoor madrasa. So then that got me to think with the first ayat, the command to the Prophet, Iqra, read. So if it was, as many of the ulama and I understand, was to connect the universal signs with the revelation that's coming down. Okay, so we've been on a journey as an ummah for many years in learning how to read, which is the Arabic language, and we learn to penetrate the Arabic language. And we can't deny all of the ayats in the Quran in relation to the universe. So we have to learn how to read them as well. So the question is, how do we read them? And alhamdulillah, that's when Allah opened the doors for me then to research all, you know, the ulama of the past and some contemporary scholars that now were thinking the same as me. And so how do we read the Kitab al-Qawl? And so there are a number of ways, and some of the ulama understand it in terms of you read the signs like with the Arabic language, you know, the ism, the noun, and the harf. The harf, the ism is just the objective. Shajara is the tree. So what about the tree? So that connects you to, okay, so that's just the biology. That's a key part. But again, it's an ayat. So and the whole journey is to take us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And take us to what? Well, we can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's to take us to the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in every aspect of our daily life, wherever we look, wherever we turn, whatever we're doing, we are connecting with the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a point where some of our ulama past have said that they could just look at one rose, and in that one rose they would see, okay, 12 names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all working together. And even as I'm beginning to research now and explore the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how again today we're still connecting with those names and learning those names in isolation. Okay, but we need to connect them together, like what our ulama did when they contemplated regarding a rose. So then it led to, okay, so we need to learn how to read the signs of the natural world. And so obviously, as I was beginning my journey, I was connecting to science and ecology. Okay, so how do we read? Okay, and so we begin to look at the principles of nature, that nature works through these key principles of 1, interdependence, 2, health, 3, adaptation, diversity, the cycle of oneness, of working together, this interconnection, and diversity. So then, you know, nature becomes the teacher, but then, so you've got the principles of nature, but now you've got to unpack those and then connect those to, okay, so now we connect it to the Quran, and that then begins this sort of journey, which is ongoing. And so, okay, so now I'm realizing now that the majority of mankind, 99.99, is looking at the world completely wrong. We're not looking at the world through the Quranic lens. We're looking at the world through a different lens. What is this lens? And so that began another journey. And that was my relationship with Professor Ian Ecologist, who is one of the leading neuroscientists. And he started to study, and that led me also to another journey of going down to study about the role of the polymath, okay, and other areas as well, and experts in education systems. And so Dr. Ian McGurkus was realizing that the right brain and left brain hemisphere, although they have to work together, before the 16th and 17th century, the right brain hemisphere was the dominant factor over the left brain, going right back to ancient civilizations, meaning that the right brain sees things, everything in terms of, through a holistic lens. It sees things in terms of patterns of relationships, which we would understand today, and I understand it in terms of systems thinking. But the left brain sees things in terms of silos, and in the Maqasid methodology, it explains about seeing things in its parts and in its silos. This is, systems thinking. So doing the research with him, and then that's when I began to and it was combining with the Maqasid methodology, then I began to see these connections. And doors began to sort of open, and I was explaining that to him from the Islamic perspective. And what's intriguing is that he was saying that in all of his academic research, everyone was agreeing that something happened between the 16th and 17th century, because before that time, humanity was predominantly operating in the right brain hemisphere. But now the left brain, since the 16th, 17th century, has now become the master. And that's his first book was The Master. And so then that began another door to explore about Iblis and his role on Earth, which is to condition humanity to operate on the horizontal plane without going to the spiritual vertical connection. And so the left brain is now dominant over the right brain. And so when you begin to study our education system, our political, our social, our economic, our environmental system, it makes sense to us, our primary schools, our education system, our secondary schools, university. And then I begin to think, subhanAllah, it's even now affecting our Islamic institutes, our maktab, our madrasa, our dar-ul-looms, that we are all in society operating through this lens that sees things in its parts, that sees things through snapshots. No wonder humanity is completely confused. And that's the state that we are in. So how would we go from the left brain back to the right brain? So that is my organization is the first priority is to try and get us to move to the right brain. And alhamdulillah, the Maqasid Institute is focused on this through its research. And so I strongly believe that this is one key area of Quranic studies of fiqh, that in order for us to have a correct understanding of the world and understand the message of the Quran, we also have to understand how to read the ayah. Because sadly today, I'm seeing that amongst many of our ulama that I with and I teach in workshops, they have no understanding. And yet we talk about the great civilizations, Iraq and Baghdad and Spain. Why did we lead the world in all of these natural sciences and social sciences, as well as Islamic sciences? And as Professor Jordan once gave in a khutbah, is we operate, sadly, even in our Islamic institutes, in the left brain hemisphere. And so when we talk about the ulama, and it's there in the Quran, when we talk about the ulama, who are the ulama? We just separate it in the silo of left brain. Well, it's the Imam, it's the Mufti, it's it. No. And we just focus on the fiqh of jurisprudence, which has its place. And Professor George Older talks about this. It has its place, but that doesn't define what Islam is. That's not the whole message of the Quran. What does fiqh? And I began to see this. What does fiqh mean according to the Quran? Not just this silo understanding of jurisprudence. And so then I began to look at the ayat. Okay, who does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer to? Who are the ulama? And that led another door to then understanding the role of the polymath and the need which connects us to think holistically in the right brain. We need the modern polymath. So we need our maktabs, our madrasas, our Islamic institutes to be able to link up the thinking. So then I begin to see clarity that we don't have an education crisis, we don't have an environmental crisis, we don't have a political crisis, we don't have an economic crisis. These are symptoms of something greater, which is simply that we're not seeing the world through the Quranic lens. Science says through the systems thinking lens, okay? And so to me, that my whole journey, and for me still going through these cycles of reflection, is to make this change. And so when I now begin to study the Quran as previous of the ulama, and this is what the Maqasid methodology is about, and I'm seeing it from an ecologist, is that the whole of the Quran is like one complete organism. It's one. It's like the tree mentioned in sort of Ibrahim, okay, with all its roots, with all its fungi, okay, everything is connected. You know, every time you open the Quran, you should be able to see all of these roots. So every surah is like an ecosystem, okay, but we don't even understand what ecosystem means. And you know, when the last surah talks about ummah, okay, communities and these connections, and so this is where you start to make all these, as I was doing, these connections between biology and ecology, and then this sort of the study that we're sort of doing, that no, the Quran is not separated. It makes sense. Every single surah connects to the next surah. It's like one complete organism, and each surah is surrounded by a boundary, just like in the ecosystem. And the key, and is to do with structure and coherence. Of course, if Allah is going to give us the divine order in perfection and order, and ask us to look for the gaps, and we can't see any, surely he wouldn't deliver a revelation which wouldn't be in order, incoherent. That's impossible. And so this is the journey that I'm now trying to take forward, and it's a journey of tafakkur, but particularly like from the Maqasid Institute of deep tadabbur, and this relationship with the qalb, with the heart. Okay, we're not going to be able to see what I'm trying to explain here and what the Maqasid Institute is trying to teach, unless first and foremost, and it's there in the methodology, unless we address the heart, the qalb. Okay, so the first command to the Prophet was read. What was his mission? Yatlu alayhim, to recite, purification, to teach with wisdom. Okay, so it's all connected with the heart, which now I now connect to the principles of Heart C, which is my organization. Okay, so the translations will just say, well, he rehearsed the signs, rehearsed the ayah. The fiqh, in terms of what we think today, didn't come down in Mecca. It was about transition, transformation, turning the hearts towards the Qibla. Okay, we can become students of so much knowledge, but if it doesn't affect the heart, then we're completely finished. Okay, and so the qalb has to be connected horizontally, but most importantly, vertically. That's what I'm learning now in my studies. Okay, that's the spiritual aspect, which is important. And so we're in a battle of hearts and minds. And Shaitan wants us to operate horizontally, but no, we have to then win this battle to go vertically, to get the qalb, the heart, to go into the right brain, as well as obviously the importance of the left brain, to then connect back to the Qibla, to the direction, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I'm still at this stage, as I said to you, this cycle of reflection. And so when I explain to my students, we need to then learn how to read the Al-Quran Taqwini, or the Kitab al-Qawn. It's still very strange. They think I'm talking about some sort of bid'ah or innovation. That's how disconnected that we are, subhanallah. And certainly with my relationship with Maqasid Institute and Professor, just older, when the Maqasid Institute is talking the same language, and the ulama that are part of it, and I class myself as a student with so much to learn, and Professor Joseph's understanding, subhanallah, that certainly helps. But it's just strange for many to understand. And so that led to the birth of Heart C. Heart C is called Heart C, which is because the focus, excuse me, is on the heart, and to see correctly. Why would it be that in Surah Ibrahim, and again the Maqasid Institute, in the opening page on the website, focuses on the tree, the importance of the tree? Why is it that in Surah Ibrahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alam tara, okay, to observe, and you need to unpack that particular term regarding the tree. And then in another surah, in relation to fruit ripening and growing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then uses another term, nasara. Okay, why is there a difference? Okay, and to start to connect, and that's where I'm at the stage now. So what I'm teaching my students is not even really at that level. What I'm trying to teach my students is at a basic level. So Heart C is about connecting to the heart, connecting to the qalb, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about why don't you see, why don't you look, why don't you observe, it is obviously to realign us, so we are using our natural senses, but much more deeper, that again the ummah is not at this level, sadly, is here Allah is connecting why don't you see, why don't you look, why don't you observe, with thinking, tafakkur and tadabbur, but going through this step-by-step approach. And it has to connect. See, I'm making these connections now with the first mission of the Prophet after Iqra, Yatlu alayhim, keep reciting. So the ayat soften the heart. And so it's about making these connections. So the first principle of Heart C is what I call rewiring, which means to unrewire all of these connections which has been put upon us since the 16th and 17th century. And what happened there? Science is showing us now, or scientists and the academic field that I've been working with, that was the birth of Western civilization, which makes sense. Okay, this profound change from how we saw the world in the right brain to now the birth of Western civilization, with on the horizons, and as a previous evolutionist myself, on the horizons of separating the church from the state, the birth of Darwinism. And so it was the birth of Western civilization, which we are now living in up to today, which is now put 99.9% of humanity into the left brain. So we need to have this revolution to go back into the right brain, to become polymaths, to look at all of these global issues, we will not understand them just by looking at the parts. We have to then bring them all together, but we won't be able to do it unless we operate in the right brain hemisphere. And to me, that's very clear. And that really connects to my two key objectives. So obviously with Heartsea, the first objective is to rewire how we see, how we think, okay? How do we do that? I'm trying to follow the message in the Quran by connecting, reconnecting. Each principle is rewiring, reconnecting to the ayah, okay? Which 99.99% of us are not doing. Even sadly, our ulama have no connection. Reconnect to the ayah, to understand them, to be on this journey, which connects us to the different levels of Islamic contemplation, to go from just looking at the object, the tree, the khabar, the ism, to go on this journey, okay, which is a journey of signposts, of ayah, which leads us to the journey of profound names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third is the rewilding. Rewilding, I understand about bringing back biodiversity and ecosystems, but for me also it connects with how do we read the ayah? It is about, if you took an ayah of the Quran and it didn't have a noun, it didn't have an object, it didn't have a harf, the verb, how are we going to make sense? So likewise, rewilding, it's about working with the natural world, but by, yes, returning biodiversity and keystone species, but in order for us then to be able to read the revelation, okay? The revelation, the Kitab al-Kawn. And then the last two principles is, inshallah ta'ala, is the redesigning, okay? To redesign a new way of seeing and thinking in order to reestablish that divine order, which is the area of social change and establishing a new society, inshallah. But for me, as I go through as a student with the Maqasid Institute and bringing all of my life's experience and expertise through the cycles of reflection, I'm heading to 5 main key objectives related to humanity, okay, the worship, the saving of lives, the equality, the rectifying the earth, dignity, with the 5 main objectives to the ummah, which is witnessing, becoming a witness to humanity, reflecting on the ayah, coming together, unifying as a ummah, aiding the oppressed, and forbidding the evil and promoting the good, okay? So that's where I see my cycles of reflection leading me to these 10, which connect to all of the principles of Heartsea, which connects to, basically, I term it 3 conquests of Al-Islam. One is the conquest, here I'm talking about a comprehensive conquest. The conquest of the self, tazkiyah, okay, the heart, qalb, which connects to the mission of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Number 2, the conquest of the environment. And here I'm talking about society, societal issues. And third is the comprehensive conquest of the natural world, okay? Those 3. And then when we look at the Prophet's life, all of the prophets, okay, they were teachers. If we look at a circle, a cycle, they were teachers, okay? If you look at the Prophet, he was a teacher, he was a trader, and a leader, okay? And on top of that, as the Islamic civilization spread, then the architecture began, the architecture of the land in harmony with the natural world, okay? And so this harmony concept is very important. And so that led me on to then working with the Prince's Trust, where they then approached me with all the work about now developing a curriculum for primary schools in the UK, age sort of 7 going up, where they would take the national UK curriculum. And surprisingly, through the Prince's Trust, that they want to work with me. And so we have devised a whole curriculum around maths, English, art, technology, where we connect every principle of nature with all that I'm trying to do through the Maqasid methodology. Right down, they want the Arabic language and everything, and they want it totally as I've been teaching it, which is quite amazing. And so that's where we are at the moment. So that's a brief background to where I am, but very much a student. I honestly don't think that I will complete this work. So I keep trying to focus on the research. Even my research of the Eurasian Griffon Vulture in Saudi Arabia still isn't completed, because I spend most of my time in the natural world. And so you could say that whatever I've been talking to you about, I'm living it and breathing it every day in the natural world. And that led finally to the birth of what I call is the outdoor madrasa. I'm starting at a very basic level. Our children, our students are not connected to the Quran. They're memorizing it, alhamdulillah, but they don't understand it. So I basically have set up an institute where through the Harmony Project around the world, I'm training up practitioners to understand all that I've been mentioned to you, which connects to the Maqasid approach, to train them to be able to see and to think, to understand, to understand this journey. So then they can then set up their own outdoor madrasa in whatever form, you know, that they want, homeschooling or connected to a madrasa, but they take everything outside, because Islam wasn't revealed in the classroom. And I'm seeing profound changes now with practitioners and children around the world, and I also lead them as well. And so that's that one level, but then I've got to think now at different age groups and advanced age groups and the university level and the dar-ul-loom level. And so we have a syllabus for level 1 and you know, at level 2. So if the Quran if the last is and research is showing well over 750 ayats in the Quran in relation to the natural world, then there has to be well over 750 lesson plans to bring all of that alive. And so that's another area that I'm trying to work on. Alhamdulillah.
Well, thank you very much, Sheikh Muhammad, really for your profound ideas and thoughts about and your practice and practice in terms of the cycles of reflection and using the purposefulness or the Maqasidi thinking, also interconnectivity and holistic thinking, and connecting with the natural diversity. And this is really something, you know, a level of thinking that is probably not really has a very popular among the majority of Muslims or the humanity at large, because we tend to live in our very narrow worlds, and especially if we are, let's say, if we practice a disciplinary thought, especially if we are in academia and we are in certain disciplines like the economists or sociologists or something, or some other in some other areas. But what is missing in all this picture is the holistic, really holistic view, and what you refer to as the right hemisphere or right brain thought. It's we do not involve the holistic approach to thought, to knowledge production. And that is why we have a lot of social problems and ecological problems, environmental problems, because we are very much narrow-minded. I mean, especially the leaders in corporations, you know, producing trying to produce the profit for their corporations. of course, it is all important, but then the whole world is for us to take care of it. And how do we take care? How do we take care of the world and the human society? I think that this is where we need a kind of thinking that is more holistic, where we need polymath, as you also rightfully mentioned. We need more polymaths today. And especially now we have all the tools, also the technology tools to employ and to maybe understand and read, get more information. Anyway, so this is we can now turn to the question and answers or any comments. If you have any questions, please, you can either just maybe open your mic and speak, or you can raise your hand and you know, you can ask your questions, or if you'd like to comment, please, it's all welcome. Well, when people, I think, still are kind of thinking of what to ask or comment on, how would you suggest? I mean, this rewilding. You were talking about rewilding. How does it work practically? I mean, from your own experience.
So it's looking at. So we're seeing now in the natural world that there's a problem with biodiversity. So population species are being separated from being connected as a Ummah. And one of the key fundamental problem, I mean, that's one thing, is to you know, enable communities of the natural world to be together. And although that's difficult because of the civilization now that we're in, is to try and provide nature corridors, okay, for species to safely move between our world and the Ummah. And we have to understand, and I think there was a great lesson during COVID, that there was the first time where humanity was told, step back, okay, go into your homes. And it was a time, science was even showing us, and much has been written about it, that I was even seeing, and you may have been seeing as well, where we were seeing animals and everything moving into the towns, moving into the cities. It was like they were saying, okay, now we're reclaiming our territory. There was a book written here about the sounds of birds that, you know, when humanity was quiet and prevented from oppressing the natural world, affecting the Ummah, that ecologists, bird ecologists, ornithologists were hearing amazing bird sounds. It was like the opportunity for the birds saying, okay, let's come together now in an orchestra and really bring alive our language. But it's also returning keystone species, which profoundly, and I'm teaching this as well, which profoundly connects to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, you know, when he came in and he was chosen, subhanAllah, to put that last stone in the renovation of the Kaaba. And hence now we focus on the cornerstone term, or the keystone species, those species which might not be a predator, it could be in different levels, which have been absent because of humanity. And they are a key part of how an ecosystem works. And so we need to return, for example, the wolf, okay, the buffalo, or probably the most famous, and I teach that the subject is the return of the wildebeest. Okay, everyone think it's the big cats, you know, the lions that control the Serengeti in Africa. No, it's the wildebeest. So it's about understanding keystone species and bringing back biodiversity, That's working with the natural world. But it's very important for us also. That's key to be able to, as I said, to be able to read the book of nature.
Thank you very much. Now, Mona Saleh, please, you can open your mic and ask the question. And if possible, your camera as well, if possible.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, thank you very much for taking my question. This is a phenomenal lecture, very, very important. And I just wanted some more practical advice, if you may, Sheikh, on how to implement what you're doing, because the connection with nature is the key to connecting to Allah. Have you established the outdoor madrasa, and how have you done so? And are you willing to share your Harmony project in the curriculum, with us, so that we could do the same? The reason I'm saying this is, yeah, we're connected. My son is studying to be a field biologist, and I'm trying to purchase a retreat center very deep in nature to bring Muslim children to it, in order to ground them and keep them grounded in nature and connect and see the signs, 1 week experiences at a time, etc., or through the summer. So I was very interested to hear how you would like, to have your ideas implemented.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, and jazakallah khair. So yes, I mean, if you to speak to the Sheikh, if you just WhatsApp me, then I'll put you into contact with our coordinator, Sister Hafsa. She's in charge of all the outdoor madrasa admin side. So we start off with an online course which covers basically, the history side, bring us up to the date. Then we do further online courses, and then we do the practical side. So we've got outdoor madrasas not just in the UK but around the world, and we've got a whole syllabus depending on the age group. Basically, it's a syllabus from the age of, say, 4 right up to university level. And so, yeah, 100%. I say the outdoor madrasas now are expanding throughout the world, and I would love to support you, and the Harmony Project can support you. So if you just get my WhatsApp address, ping me a message, I'll put you in touch with our admin, and we can literally put you on to the next course.
Jazakallah khair, barakallah feekum.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Mona. Well, we have in the chat, we have a question from Dr. Farid Malik. So he is asking about your understanding of the verse from Surah Ibrahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء. So how do you not see? And well, he brings the translation. So your understanding of this verse, how do you understand this?
So here, for me and how I teach my students, it's extremely profound. It's so profound that our beloved messenger, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he then so this ayat, part of Ibrahim, came down in Mecca. So again, through systems thinking, we have to unpack what was happening there. And after the revelation, after the Iqra, again, the first mission was Yatlu alayhim, to recite. There was no, discussion on deep fiqh issues. It was just in Mecca. The focus was on La ilaha illallah, okay, to eradicate the shirk, to instill the purity of the kalima. And so it's not till we go to Medina for the migration, then our beloved messenger, then in this hadith where he calls the companions and he wants to bring this ayat alive, and that's where we see a change. But in this ayat, so here Allah is saying, Alam tara, why don't you observe? Okay, and so that's a whole journey in itself. So I literally take our students to a forest. So it's about, there is a good word which is like a tree. So we understand, okay, through the Mufassirin, that the word is the kalima, okay, and it's like a tree. So how does the kalima connect to the tree? It has to be a strong tree, a powerful tree, and so that connects us through system thinking to observe the tree. So when we look at the tree, that's just the khabar, that's just the ism. shajara, do we see the whole tree? But we don't, because the most important part of the tree is the roots, and that then connects us to another journey to understanding the root system and the fungi, which science is thus now in my research is just showing now that they look at a particular tree as the mother tree, and how there's a series of networks of communication and how trees now communicate, okay, and how, you know, in the Quran, in Surah Hashr, Allah starts with the term sabbaha, everything has praised me, and ends with yusabbihu, and everything will praise me. Everything is praising me, but in a language you just don't understand, okay? And so we go down that sort of journey, and then that verb, alam tara kayfa daraba. So daraba means initially to hit, but here Allah is saying it's becoming quite sort of, you know, why don't you observe, open your eyes and start to think? But using the eyes is just that first journey. So then that takes us, once you've absorbed the tree, and then you start to look at the biology, then you go into the ecology, and then look at how the tree, the mother tree, is connected to all the other trees. Now that connects to the kalima. So this is now the revelation that become a strong Muslim, okay? Identification, iman, akhlaq, okay? And then you connect to the community. So that ayat, alam tara kayfa daraba, okay? Mathalan, the example. Now we go to Medina, because now what's happened? Transition, transformation. In Medina, the Islamic State is now building. It's expanding. Now our beloved messenger brings that ayah to life. He says, Inna min ash-shatri ka-rajulin. Now he said that verily there is a tree which is like a believer. Can you see the change? Subhanallah. The ayat in Surah Ibrahim, that there is a word, okay? Because connect that to the Meccan period, that was the key focus, okay? Not on any fiqh issues, okay? The focus was La ilaha illallah, okay? A companion went to the Prophet and said, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, give me something solid that I can." For me, he said, "Yes." He said, "Qul amantu billahi thumma istaqim." And so the ayat connects how I teach it to the Meccan period. Then we go to Medina, okay? And now the Prophet changes it, okay? That verily there is a tree which is like a believer, because now he's telling the companions, and in this famous hadith, it's clear that the companions know about the trees of Medina. And even young Abdullah, the son to Al-Khattab, he knows the tree, which is the palm tree, okay? And that's another great lesson. And then how then we relate the palm tree to different tree species in your particular country, and this relationship with trees. And then we go deeper into the relationship with trees and patterns of nature, and how all of the patterns you see in the natural world, which then will connect us to permaculture and how to mimic the natural world, all those patterns are all in the tree, which connects us to Leonardo da Vinci, the famous front page cover where the human is out, okay, where the human is exactly the same shape as the tree. Hence the importance of trees in the Quran.
Thank you. There's another question by Sister Layla. So she's writing in the chat here, living in a concrete jungle makes it difficult to enjoy the connection to the natural world. What are some practical suggestions for parents where they can cultivate the right hemisphere in their children?
So the best thing if you're living in a concrete jungle is even go to a local park. And one of the key activities that we teach, not just children, but students of all ages, is we start off with what we call is to retune the senses, and we call it sit spot exercises. So we're going out, we're reconnecting to the natural world, to a favorite location, and begin to tune into our eyes and our ears. Those two senses, particularly the focus in the Quran. We cover taste as well, and then we then introduce, which we call it in our program, a portfolio of evidence, which is the nature journal. You basically, whatever you're seeing, whatever you're thinking and hearing, sorry, you begin to bring alive through field guiding and tracking. So this is my experience and expertise in a field guide and tracker. When you're outside and you're a field guide, so you're a field guide, you're collecting the evidence, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and then when you return home, you are then contemplating, okay, which is tafakkur and tadabbur. And so we do these sit spot exercises, which is the process of learning how to rewire. And then we begin to then take you through this sort of journey where you go not just by looking, but then you go into understanding from the biology to the ecology, which is then looking at relationships. Then we look at mapping, and then we can begin to then understand the patterns in nature. And then we start to bring in Quranic ayats, hadith, the seerah. So it slowly begins to come alive. And then the other area is permaculture, the establishment of food forests. And so we teach you then how to grow all of this, but mimicking the ayah, okay? So like that ripple effect in the water, okay, you have the ripple effect. And so whatever is in the outer, the macro is also in the inner as well. So it's important that there's whatever you do, you're working not just on the horizontal plane, but the vertical as well. So we're connecting this divine order. There's an ayat in the Quran, I can't remember what surah, where Shaitan, a'udhu billah, says that he will wait for the believer, front, back, right, and left. But our teachers tell us there's two positions which is not there, above and below. Okay, that's that divine order. And so the whole of my approach, not just through my research that I'm doing under the Maqasid, but my whole life is about Heart C is reconnecting that divine order.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Now there's one question. Is there an online research or online resource or curriculum to follow in order to instill those thought process in our children?
Yeah. Again,
is there a way to access that?
Yes, inshallah ta'ala, we have a website and YouTube channel and group. So if you ping me a WhatsApp message, I'll put you in contact with our admin staff, and then they can then get you access and then put you onto courses, etc.
There's just a comment by a user. My understanding of the Quran and being a psychiatrist, first key for the heart to keep calling for Allah. Then all our senses will bring us back to the mercy and compassion of Allah. An example is when I leave work while driving, the sky, the trees, the road, the buildings, etc., bring so much back to connect us to Allah.
And it's interesting. It's just interested on the psychology aspect.
Yeah.
That a big part of my work as the head imam in the prison service is working with mental illness and crime, etc., and working with psychologists. And yet we have to understand that the psychology of today is a completely different understanding than the Islamic perspective. So psychology is the study of the soul. Okay, if you talk to a psychologist today, they have no understanding of what you're talking about, and that means psychology is about the study of the heart, and that is the most important thing, really. I think Professor just Older would agree. It's the most important thing of the whole of this Maqasid approach is about changing the heart.
Yeah, and just to add to it, we're going to have a Islamic psychology research network, and this is where we are soon going to introduce the Maqasid methodology course specifically for the psychologists. So a few of our students, professors in psychology and Islamic psychology, and other team members, they're working on a customized course for Maqasid methodology for psychology students. Sister Mona Saleh, please.
Yeah, I apologize for speaking again, but whilst you've been talking, I've been trying to find you on WhatsApp and have failed to do so. So I just, if you could maybe post something in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated.
Inshallah.
Okay, here, so we can post in the chat and maybe some links also to your institute or your organization. Is there any other comment or question from anyone? No, let me, I'm going to post my my email. And then if anybody wants to maybe ask for some questions or contacts. Oops, sorry. So you can contact me. I can also connect you with Sheikh Muhammed, and also we can you can follow us either Facebook or we have the YouTube channel as well. So if you'd like to, if you have questions, let's say specifically for Prof. Jasser Ouda, I think you can also connect him via email, and he usually answers email. .org. So this is for Prof. Jasser Ouda. So that is his email, and this is and earlier I posted my my email. So my Eldus Rafikov. I'm with Maqasid Institute. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Director of Research. So you can contact me if there is if you are interested in our courses as well. Yeah, the initiative is coming soon, so you just contact me, and inshallah we'll provide more information on that specific course, inshallah. Now, any closing statement, Sheikh Muhammad?
No,
like if you want to add anything, maybe point people to your organizations once again.
Yeah, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, please please contact Heartsea, and just, and it requires effort. This, if we look at the brain transformation hemisphere, which research is showing the 16th and 17th century, to really realign our whole view, our world view, so we're looking at everything through the Quranic lens, will take time. And it's a battle of hearts and minds. But likewise, the question is, well, how often should we connect to the Quran? Well, that's every day. So the question is then, in order to be able to read the book of nature, so how often should we connect? And I give the same answer every single day. And that proposes lots of issues, lots of challenges in this modern world. And that is the challenge. It's this battle of hearts and minds. But if you make this journey, which I'm on, I've been on this journey all my life, and it's profound. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you go on this journey, and you begin to see relationships, patterns, and you just see connections everywhere. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening doors for you, gives you the opportunity to look for a short time, and then you just, it's so profound that you may look at a tree or a bird, and then suddenly all the connections begin to happen. And then when you open the Quran, you turn to a hadith, you turn to the life, the seerah of the Prophet, it just literally comes alive, and it just makes you think, subhanallah, how blessed the companions of the Prophet peace and blessing would have been, and they were there in the company of the Prophet as the revelation was coming down. They lived it and they breathed it, and that's something that is not in the Ummah, in our majority of our institutes. And so it's a message to all of you in some way, somehow. Please try and make that connection, inshallah, through all of your research and studies.
Well, thank you very much, Sheikh Muhammed Foulds. Really, we really appreciate you joining and providing your really profound experience and ideas, and pointing us back to the Quran and the nature, and trying to read and look at the world around us, and see the ayat, see the signposts, see the symbols, signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is definitely, it is done with more tafakkur and tadabbur, and reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with the Book of Allah. And we, of course, we do invite everyone to try to reconnect with these two books, as Sheikh Taha Jabir al-Alwani, he wrote about the two readings, al-Jam' bayna al-qira'atayn. And this is reading between the nature. And interestingly, in his book, he starts that book pointing to the to Surah Al-Alaq. In the first ayah that was revealed, it points to the khalaq. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So, and that points to the nature. And this is supposed to be like our first reading. And then it goes to the al-wahi. So, alhamdulillah, we really appreciate you sharing your views, and we hopefully other people can connect with you, with your institute, organizations. And lastly, alhamdulillah, I just want to so we can end with Surah Al-Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So thank you very much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.